Have you ever heard about autistic regression in adults? Maybe this idea seems contradictory, but it's a reality for many. Imagine discovering that autism, far from being static, can bring changes over time, and these changes can make certain challenges intensify, especially after diagnosis. For those experiencing this, it feels like navigating unknown waters, where skills and abilities seem to disappear and return unpredictably, creating doubt and uncertainty. But does autism really get worse over time? Or is there something deeper happening? Understanding this phenomenon could be the key to turning these apparent losses into an opportunity for self-awareness and acceptance. Stay with me, and together we'll uncover what lies behind this journey, revealing nuances and secrets that few understand. Introduction to autistic regression. The introduction to the phenomenon of autistic regression is a moment that, for many, brings a mix of questions and even some discomfort. Imagine someone who, after a diagnosis, feels as if they are going backward in skills they once mastered. This sense of loss and uncertainty can deeply affect not only the individual but also family and friends. The matter of autistic regression is complex and deserves attention because it involves the perception that something once stable suddenly seems to slip away. To cope, it's good to observe these signs calmly, recognizing that sometimes the body and mind send these signals as a way of communicating a need for pause. To better understand what's happening, it's essential to see how increased sensitivity, common after diagnosis, can lead to unexpected reactions. For example, imagine someone who once tolerated certain sounds or interactions, but now feels overwhelmed by minor stimuli. This isn't necessarily negative, but rather a response from the body and mind to a new self-perception. This change, while it may be labeled as regression, can often be a way to reconnect with aspects of oneself that may have been suppressed over time. During this process, it's important to remember that this apparent regression is also a form of growth. It's like looking back and finding points that need revisiting for inner strengthening. Regression, in this sense, is not a setback but a new way of adapting, where autism takes on a more present role. To help someone going through this, it's beneficial to encourage moments of self-care and non-judgmental observation, fostering an environment where the person feels safe to express these new sensitivities. Burnout as a contributing factor. Burnout is a phenomenon that goes beyond physical exhaustion. For autistic adults, it can emerge from long periods of masking the constant effort to adapt to the world around them. Imagine running a never-ending marathon, constantly adjusting behavior, suppressing natural reactions to meet external expectations. Eventually, energy just depletes, leaving an almost unbearable fatigue. This state of exhaustion isn't easy for everyone to recognize, but it can become evident through sudden changes in behavior, like a sharp drop in energy in simple day-to-day activities. This sense of burnout translates into a fatigue so deep that, for many, it becomes difficult even to resume ordinary habits. It's like the body is in a power-saving mode, where every step requires enormous effort. If you've ever felt exhaustion so intense that you wondered if you could really keep going, this can give you an idea of what some autistic adults face. To minimize the impact, it's essential to create small breaks throughout the day and reduce the pressure to function all the time. This practice helps not only with rest, but also with self-understanding. In this context, recovery becomes a careful, gradual process requiring patience and understanding. It's not like pressing a button to immediately return to normal. Often, taking time away from masking situations is necessary, allowing the person to explore their own pace and needs. This approach may seem simple, but it's one of the most effective ways for the autistic individual to restore their capacity to face daily life without the weight of exhaustion. And with that, a question arises: what would life be like without this constant sense of weariness? Recovery and capacity impact. When discussing burnout recovery in autistic adults, the process can be slower and more delicate than one might imagine. It's a journey that requires patience, as for many, interruptions during rest or premature returns to exhausting activities can compromise the entire recovery process. Imagine someone trying to fill a cup with water, but it keeps spilling before its full. Energy drains in a similar way, and each premature attempt to return to normal only prolongs the process. It's as if the body is saying, "I need time to rebuild." In these cases, the capacity to handle daily life becomes limited, and what once seemed easy now becomes draining. This feeling of always being in power-saving mode reflects a real need for self-awareness. Taking time to rest and finding activities that genuinely nourish well-being are essential. Sometimes, something as simple as dedicating oneself to calming hobbies, like reading or gardening, can make a huge difference. Activities that require less mental and physical effort can help restore balance in a way that both body and mind willingly accept. Energy recovery is not just a matter of time but of understanding and respecting one's rhythm. Without this awareness, the tendency toward a cycle of exhaustion can repeat, creating a routine where burnout becomes almost inevitable. Learning to recognize limits and knowing when to apply the brakes is a valuable skill. Imagine recovery as constant training, where small victories, like days with more energy, accumulate until a new stability is reached. And, in adjusting to this reality, one begins to wonder, what happens when someone lives without the burden of constant masking? Unmasking in autism discovery. When an autistic adult begins to drop the mask, it's as if they're discovering a new version of themselves, a version that may have been hidden for a long time. This unmasking happens naturally over time, especially after diagnosis, when the person feels they can finally express themselves more authentically. Imagine someone who, throughout life, has shaped behaviors to blend in, and now, gradually, begins to act more spontaneously. The feeling of freedom is accompanied by a certain strangeness. Both the person and those around them may notice these changes as something new and, at times, even surprising. In this process of discovery, authenticity flourishes, but not without some challenges. People who previously maintained carefully moderated behavior begin to allow themselves to explore and reveal aspects of their true personality. An example might be taking pleasure in specific hobbies or interests that were previously hidden to avoid judgment. Suddenly, these interests come to the forefront, and the autistic individual experiences the relief of being who they truly are, without that constant internal monitoring. It's a phase of transformation where even simple choices in free time become a symbol of freedom. For those nearby, unmasking may seem like an abrupt change, but it's actually a gradual liberation. This is the moment when autism becomes more visible, not because it's something new, but because it's finally being lived without the barriers that once concealed it. This phase of self-discovery and acceptance is crucial for the autistic adult to feel comfortable in their own space. But it's important to remember that this is only the beginning of a deeper journey of adjustment and balance. After all, when one lets go of masking, what else can be revealed about true identity? Life changes post-diagnosis. After diagnosis, many autistic adults experience changes that, at first glance, may seem drastic but are actually necessary adjustments to meet their true needs. Imagine someone who suddenly realizes that loud environments are overly bothersome and begins to avoid them. This type of adaptation isn't a new behavior but rather a way to align with what the body and mind truly need to be at peace. Preferences that were once ignored now take center stage, and this adjustment can be a sign of self-understanding. These changes also reflect a desire to live more authentically. Many, as they become more aware of their sensitivities, seek environments that respect their well-being. For example, someone might swap outings in busy places for outdoor activities, where being in nature provides sensory comfort. Other adaptations include using noise-canceling headphones or creating a safe space at home to relax. These small day-to-day adjustments can make a huge difference in quality of life, bringing relief and self-sufficiency. For those close by, these transformations may seem unusual but represent an important step in the journey of self-discovery and respect for one's own limitations. It's a restructuring process where the autistic person redefines their place in the world, adjusting to feel more comfortable with themselves. With these changes, new doors open to explore a lifestyle more aligned with one's identity. And with that, a natural curiosity emerges. What would life be like if each of us could live exactly according to our deepest needs? Recalibration, not regression. The recalibration process many autistic adults experience after diagnosis shouldn't be mistaken for regression, though it may appear that way to an outside observer. This adjustment is, in fact, a form of realignment, where the person begins living according to their authentic needs, without the constant pressure to fit into social molds. Imagine someone who, after years of adapting to external norms, finally decides to listen to what their body and mind are asking for. This adjustment period is essentially a renormalization, a search for a new normal that respects their true self. This new normal often brings to light behaviors that were suppressed or ignored. An example is someone who, during recalibration, starts prioritizing activities that calm and strengthen them, like meditation, light exercise, or simply time dedicated to a special hobby. Far from being regression, this transition phase is a form of replenishment and connection with what truly matters. It's an invitation to understand that by respecting their own limitations and preferences, the autistic person is building a routine that allows them to thrive. For family and friends, this recalibration phase may require patience and understanding, as the change is gradual and unique to each individual's experience. This transition creates space for the autistic adult to finally feel truly in control of their life, making decisions based on comfort and well-being. It's a period that requires support and acceptance because each step toward this new normal strengthens confidence and the ability to live more harmoniously. And so, the journey continues, with new learnings and discoveries each day. So, how will you apply this knowledge to your life? Have you stopped to think about how respecting your own needs can transform the way you see the world? Each concept we explored here is an invitation for you to question, reflect, and perhaps take the reins of your journey with a fresh perspective. Is it time to let go of the pressure to fit in and start living according to what truly makes sense to you? If this idea intrigues you, leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and understand what this journey has been like for you. And of course, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and let's continue this discovery together. After all, understanding autism in its essence is just the beginning of a powerful journey.